16 in this. Okay, when you use those numbers, you're not thinking about 16 going into 32. You're not getting the point of the exercise.
I didn't even know we were exercising. I mean, it looks like we're sitting down right now.
You are one bullheaded motherfucker.
Okay.
Are we gonna get a Waffle House or not?
Well, I'm trying to get this. I mean,
We can go get it over a drink. How about that?
well, I got to write it all down. I'm trying to do some coding while we do it because I'm trying to get
How are you coding?
I'm making 16-bit going to 64-bit. I'm using the math you're teaching me. I mean, I'm learning how to count, and you go from 7 to 5 to 10.
That's not the fucking point. You forget that because you're not gonna understand that.
Okay. Tell me a different way, then. Tell me how to understand it. What am I not getting?
You're just not getting that 16-bit is not compatible with 64-bit without a cushion between.
I know 16-bit does not have any way to read 64-bit. I mean, there's no way that's gonna happen. But 64-bit should be able to read 16-bit.
But it's just okay. So in a society, the coding just doesn't work together without proper without proper coaxing, basically.
So I need to run 32-bit on my 64-bit to run 16-bit.
You need to run 16-bit on your 64-bit to run 16-bit. Period.
But I thought you said that. But I thought you said running 16-bit on my 64-bit is impossible. How am I gonna run?
To run 16-bit on 64-bit, you've got to run a 16-bit architecture. So in a sense, you've got to run 16-bit on 64-bit to run 16-bit.
But I mean, that architecture should already be there. I mean,
it's not. It's not there. Get in your head. It's not there. That's my entire point. It's not.
But 64-bit is like a higher number. I mean, 16 is you have to get to 16 before you can get to 64. So I mean, there are 16 bits in 64-bit computers.
Yeah, there's a little bit of 16-bit probably in Windows 7 that you can't get to it in a sense that it might be there, but program compatibility code is not there. Google it. You get a computer in front of you. Google it. You'll see it right there.
But I can't talk it out. I gotta have somebody to talk to when I'm learning something. I learn so much easier that way.
I'm trying to talk to you, but you're just being a freaking complete retard. So simple. It just won't work. It's that simple.
So when you're counting the 64, you have to skip 16 now, right? 16 doesn't exist?
That has nothing to do with absolutely anything.
But in order to put 64 bits into a computer, you have to put 16 in first. Therefore, you should be able to run 16-bit programs.
No, that's not necessarily true. There may be a little bit of 16-bit code in Windows. I mean, think about it. There is, because you have a command prompt. There's some 16-bit coding probably right there. The thing is, to enable for 16-bit programs themselves to run in a 64-bit Windows environment, you've got to have a 16-bit emulator, like a DOS emulator.
Okay, what's 16 times 4? It's 64, right? So
okay, we can multiply these numbers and add numbers and all this bullshit all day long, all night long, all year long. It's still not going to change the fact that the coding is just not there.
So are you saying I can run 4 16 bits on my 64-bit computer?
No!
So.
Oh my god, I can't breathe.
Okay, so what's 32 times 2? 64,
That's
right?
not gonna do with anything. Just quit doing that.
So 32 times 2 is 64. 32 divided by 2 is 16. So I can run.
If you're gonna play that way, they went from 16 to 32 to 64. If they skip 32 plus 16, they skip 48. Bam.
Okay. They skip 48 because they don't like the number 48. It just doesn't sound right. I mean, 64 is just way better. I mean,
you're just stupid.
I mean, if it's 64, I mean, you can put 4 16s in it, and you can run 4 16-bit programs as well. You can also run.
You put 3 16s in it. Hey, it's 16. You can put 1 16 in it. It's 32, but you put 2 16s in it. It's just a freaking number. It's basic math right there, which has nothing to do with the actual coding of the computer.
But the numbers tell you how many bits there are. I mean, if there's 64 bits, you have to go through 16 before you can get to 64.
Oh yeah, and there's 256-bit encryptions. Ooh, what do you freaking do? I don't care.
Okay, now we're not talking about the colors and all that crap. Now we're talking about bits and like codings and 64 and 32 and 16. We're not talking about 256.
Let's talk about 128-bit. What are they going to do when they move to that, huh?
When they have 128-bit, when they have 128-bit, the computers are going to be like the size of a cell phone, and you can do whatever you want on your cell phone. That's going to be cool. And then you can have like all the 16 bits you want on that. I mean, just like now.
You're being stubborn. You're just not getting the point. It just doesn't work. It's that there shouldn't have to be any explanation. It just doesn't work. It's that simple. It just won't work.
But
there doesn't need to be all this discussion.
But if you can run 32 on 64, why can't you run 16 on 32 on 64?
Because it's not true 32 on a 64.
But 32 is in 64.
It's just enough compatibility to run 32-bit programs with no problem. That same compatibility is not there in 64-bit for the 32-bit. The 32-bit, I mean, for the 16-bit. The 32-bit and the 64-bit is independent on its own, but it's still part of the 64-bit, basically.
Okay. The 16-bit was invented, or was around like 1995, 96, that time zone, right?
No.
Around that.
No, 16-bit was before then.
Like 94 or something like that.
It was still kind of in use in the mid-90s. They were starting to get into the 32-bit once the Windows started coming out.
Yeah, about 36 was about 32. 96 was about when 32 came out.
Windows 95
actually came out. Therefore, I can put my computer in compatibility mode all the way to 95. I mean, shouldn't that run 16-bit though?
Okay, no, it shouldn't, because in order to run, you could run DOS programs, 16-bit programs on Windows 95, but that's because Windows 95 itself, the entire operating system, had a lot of DOS coding in it still, because it was just under DOS, it was still mainstream.
Okay, but if I put my computer in the compatibility mode of 95, couldn't I then run 32-bit running 16-bit?
No. Don't make this hard on yourself. You just can't.
But why not?
Because, like I said 50,000 times already, Microsoft did not include 16-bit program compatibility in their 64-bit copies of Windows.
Oh, we're talking about Microsoft? I thought we were talking about Linux.
What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, I was talking about this Linux computer over here.
You don't have a Linux computer.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't.
Yeah, it's in storage.
Quit bullshitting me, please.
I'm not bullshitting. It's Linux version 10.0.
10.0. It was 10.04, not 10.0.
It's still 10.0. I mean, you got to get to 10.0 before you can get to the 4 anyways. I mean, it's the same thing.
Oh my god, you're freaking retarded. Just shut up already. You're just being retarded to make me mad.
Okay, so if we're not talking about Linux and we're not talking about Windows, are we talking about Macintosh?
What? Fuck you.
So on a Macintosh, if you have a 64-bit, could you run 16-bit?
I don't know. I've never used one. I don't know enough about them, so I'm not even going to get into that.
Okay, well then, how come we can on Windows then?
You can or can't?
CAN, can.
Can what?
You can run 16 on 64.
With a mod simulator.
No, just by doing it.
You can't. You can't do it by doing it. You've got to add the 16-bit architecture to the 64.
But, I mean, why?
But this, but that, but your face.
Okay, 32 can run 16, and 64 can run 32. So, why can't 64 run 32 running 16?
Okay, I'm fixing to get you a free explanation so you will shut the fuck up.
Do what? I couldn't hear you.
I'm fixing to get you an explanation so you will shut the crap up.
But I wasn't crapping, though. I'm talking.
Oh my god, I hate you.
Okay. So you're saying 16-bit you can run on 32-bit. And 32-bit you can run on 16-bit. Therefore you can run 16 on 64. You there, Caleb?
Hang on, I'm doing something here. Even some 32-bit programs won't even work on 64-bit OSs. It just sometimes they won't even work.
But that doesn't make sense. I mean, 32's in 64. Why can't you do it?
It just makes sense because that's how coding, that's how programming works. It just makes sense. It's just how it works.
Well, why can't you just do it? Just go.
It just won't work. It's that simple. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But it doesn't need to be any more explanation. It just doesn't work.
Well,
it has nothing to do with it. It just won't.
Well, I think we should just do it. Just make it work.
You can't, you fucktard.
I think we can.
You can't, you fucktard. You can't.
But why not?
It just doesn't work that way.
But it does work the other way.
It's just like you can't get a guy pregnant by a dick in an axe. It just doesn't work.
Well, what you said just doesn't make sense. I mean, running 16-bit on 32-bit on 64-bit, that makes sense.
It makes sense, but that doesn't mean it'll work.
But
just because something makes sense does not mean it actually works.
But what I said makes more sense than what you said, though.
It may make more sense, but what I said still is the truth.